All right. Okay. Good day, everyone. Welcome to the bonus session for our fall learning series, session 8, the CPHIMS-CA Q&A. So I'm delighted to see so many of you here today, and my name is Amanda Delory. I'm the Member Programs Coordinator at Digital Health Canada. And so the facilitator for today's session is my colleague, Nickiesha Linton. Nickiesha is the Senior Manager of Education at Digital Health Canada, and she manages key professional development resources for our association. So as usual, please expect a satisfaction poll at the appropriate time during the session and a feedback survey at the end of the session. Your participation is greatly appreciated, and it helps us to improve future sessions. We'll also be having lots of time for Q&A with Nickiesha. So if ever you have any questions, definitely drop it in the chat. And you can also use the raise hand button as well at the end to ask her any questions. So don't be shy. All right, thank you. And I'll pass the mic over to Nickiesha.
Thank you, Amanda. So welcome, everyone. It's fantastic to see such an interest in the CPHIMS-CA Credential. I just want to point out that since this is a bonus session for our regular fall learning series attendees, please expect to see others in the room that you may have not seen throughout the series, as this session is open to all. So whether you're here to explore this path or enhance your understanding of digital health standards, there's something for everyone with the CPHIMS-CA Credential. So over the next hour, we'll walk through the core aspects of the CPHIMS-CA, from the exam process to professional benefits and resources available. We're here to support your journey towards this certification. So since we're gathered virtually from across the country, it's essential to acknowledge the lands we occupy and honor Indigenous communities. I encourage you at this time to share the traditional lands you're joining from in the chat as part of our collective respect and commitment to reconciliation. So as for myself, as we're gathering virtually today from different parts of the country, we would like to collectively acknowledge the lands we occupy, whether treaty or unceded. For myself, as I joined from Cambridge, Ontario, I acknowledge that I'm on the Haldimand Tract, land promised to the Haudenosaunee people of 6 nations, which includes 6 miles on each side of the Grand River. This territory is a traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples. I also recognize that this land is now the home of many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. And I can see in the chat, so please feel free to type in the chat where you're joining from as well. So here's our agenda for today. We'll start with an overview of the CPHIMS-CA Credential. We'll move into the eligibility and exam structure, and then explore resources available to help you succeed. We'll also set aside some time for Q&A at the end, so feel free to make note of any questions that you may have. To get started, though, I'd like to invite you to participate in a poll that will be appearing on your screen momentarily. Okay. And so if you are joining from a cell phone, you would need to join via the web browser at menti.com. But for those who are online on a laptop or a desktop, you can participate directly here. So the idea is to put a dot where you're joining from. So let's see if we're found all over the country. Seeing BC, Alberta, Ontario, yeah. Lots of BC coming in. You see 3 in Ontario. Oh, we have Saskatchewan being represented here as well. And let's see which province has the most. Ontario is topping at 4. Yukon. Good. So we're having quite a pretty blend. And I'm seeing some of the responses in the chat as well. Shubi's from joining from Ontario. Okay. So we'll give others a few more seconds to participate in this question here before I move on to the next. Nova Scotia. Any Quebec? Newfoundland, Prince Edward Island, Nunavut, Manitoba. We're missing from those areas, as well as the Northwest Territories. Okay. Excuse me. So let's move on to the next question. Oh, we have Winnipeg represented in the chat. Thank you. Okay, so I'll move next to the next slide here. Have you considered obtaining the CPHIMS-CA certification? The options are yes, no, but interested, onshore, already certified. So we have an already certified in the chat here today. Awesome. Onshore. Well, for those who are unsure, hopefully by the end of the session, we will have you joining yes. You'll be on the yes side of the survey. Okay. Oh, so Redmi is saying CA, you're the CA HIMSS certified. Okay, thanks for clarifying that. Okay, thank you. And then the next question here is, okay, you're at the right place, Kenny. We will be exploring what the credential is. What interests you most about the CPHIMSS credential? And this is really an open-ended question. It could be just curious to know more about what it is, what the hype is, why should I have it? Whatever the reason, what interests you most about this credential? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Good. Looks good on a resume. Potential to switch careers and enter the clinical informatics space. Who should have it and why? Yeah, I'm loving these answers. Okay. Seen as credible. That's a good point. Digital health will not be going away anytime soon. That's a very good point. It validates professional competency, broaden the knowledge base. Thank you. All great responses. Okay. I'll just give it 30 more seconds in case anyone else has anything they would like to add. Okay. And then the final question, I believe. How many years experience do you have in information management systems in a healthcare setting? So at the bottom, the options are, I have 3 years in information management systems, and out of those, 2 of those 3 years are in a healthcare setting. Then option 2, I have 5 years in IMS, and 3 of those are in healthcare setting. And the last 10 years and 8 are in healthcare setting. Okay. Okay, so we're having a lot of folks here with over 10 years or so experience in IMS, with 8 or so in health systems. And we have Andrea saying in the chat that she's between 2 and 3, Bridget 5 years plus. Thank you for participating. Okay, So I'm going to switch gears now and I'm going to get back over to the PowerPoint. So just bear with me as I shift the screens again here. So thanks everyone for participating in the Menti. This gives me a better understanding of who's in the room and how to lead the conversation. Okay, are you back to seeing my screen?
Looks good on my end.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so the CPHIMS-CA program has the backing of two expert committees, the Item Writing Committee and the Exam Development Committee. And each member brings industry expertise to the table to ensure that the exam reflects current standards and best practices. So on the next two slides that I'm going to share, the members represent the digital health leadership from across Canada that are helping to make this certification meaningful and relevant for professionals. So these are our volunteers who lead the exam writing and development process. So first up is the Item Writing Committee. And this is led by Christine Couturier, and the members include Margie Kennedy, Marlene Mann, Selena Davis, Chantel Bailey, Margie Kennedy, Kathy Yu, Jaya Gorajada, Seema Nayani, and Neil Gardner, who acts as a consult. So some of these names may be familiar to you. They may be your peers, individuals you've worked with, and they represent individuals across Canada. Christine leads the team, and she has been leading since 2022, but she has been certified since 2015. And she has been writing items since 2016. So our item writers, they play a crucial role by creating questions that challenge your knowledge and skill, as well as application. They're the ones that craft the questions that ensure our exam accurately reflects competencies in healthcare informatics. And their goal is to build a robust exam bank that can continuously be drawn from to keep the exam current and applicable to the changing health informatics landscape. The next team is led by, and this is just an overview of some of the responsibilities really of the item writers. So again, they meet from across the country. They are on a 2-year term. And of course, there are times when they may serve again on their term, but the current group, this is their 2-year term. They work together, they discuss the questions, and they pull them together to create a puzzle. They build questions based on the different cognitive levels. And when they have come to an agreement, the question is then passed off to the next committee, which is called the Exam Development Committee. And the chair of the Exam Development Committee is Janine Kay. The members include Heather Beagley, Helen Clement, Lisa Moore, Christine Couturier, and Neil Gardner. And of course, I also sit on both committees, as well as I help with collaborating with HIMSS, who we partner with for the CPHIMS-CA exam. So the Exam Development Committee, they oversee questions review. They ensure that the questions meet a high standard of rigor and relevance. And they're also making sure that the exams are fair and align with the approved format. They finalize the exam structure and score using what is called the ONGOF method to ensure fairness and accuracy. The members that make up the Exam Development Committee were originally part of the writing committee. So they've gone through the due process of learning to write before they critique questions. Both committees, the time spent allows them to earn continuing education credits, which they use towards their recertification every 3 years. One of the responsibility of the Exam Development Committee is to set the exam pass mark. And again, this is done using the ONGOF method. So let's talk a bit more about the CPHIMS-CA credential. So the CPHIMS-CA stands for Certified Professional in Healthcare Information and Management Systems Canada. This credential is internationally recognized and is designed to validate expertise in healthcare informatics. For Canadian professionals, the additional CA ensures a deep understanding of the Canadian healthcare environment. By achieving this credential, you're recognized for reaching an international standard in health informatics and committing to ongoing professional growth. The CPHIMS-CA certification is a collaboration between HIMSS, which is based in the US, and Digital Health Canada. This exam or this credential requires passing 2 exams. So the first exam is the CPHIMS, and this one is offered by HIMSS. And the second is the CA or the Canadian Supplemental Exam, which is monitored and offered by us here at Digital Health Canada. There are some similarities and differences with the exams. So both exams are multiple choice. The CPHIMS exam is a 2-hour exam with 100 questions. The CA exam is multiple choice with 50 questions and 1 hour. Another thing to bear in mind is that the CPHIMS exam, there are 3 ways to sit. You can sit it online, it can be sat in person at person view locations throughout the world, and they usually offer them as well as the HIMSS conference events or special sittings for different conferences. For oral exam, which is the CA exam, we currently only offer this through remote proctoring, so it's an online exam. Each exam also has its own unique resources for preparation. A good thing to note and a key difference is that the CA exam covers competencies that are not included in the CPHIMS exam. So it's also good to note that the CPHIMS exam, as an international exam, it covers items that are more specific across the world. The CA exam zooms it in for a closer look at the Canadian health system. And so oral exam focuses on a higher understanding of the Canadian context. So the CPHIMS has gained significant traction globally. Currently, there are over 3,500 certificates across 32 countries. So it's not just an exam, it's a credential recognized by top professionals from healthcare executives to consultants and educators. And this international recognition means that when you're certified, your expertise is known and respected across various healthcare fields. So let's take a look at some survey results. So the first one here is from HIMSS, and this is a survey that they did. And one of the questions that they asked was, what are the top 3 reasons individuals had for pursuing the credential, as well as some of the benefits? And I'm just going to give us some summaries here. That the top 3 reasons individuals identified for pursuing the credential: personal accomplishment, a demonstration of the command of the professional body of knowledge, as well as an indication of their own professional growth. Some from the survey, it's also said that it had an impact on their job. Some had an advancement. 30% said there was an advancement that helped in qualifying them for a job. 24% said that it helped them in achieving a higher salary, while 16% said that it helped them in earning or receiving a promotion. So there's a lot of value, not only at the personal, but also at the professional value for pursuing this credential. Earlier this year, we at Digital Health Canada also carried out a survey for individuals who have the CPHIMS-CA credential. And one of the questions on the survey was, how has obtaining the CPHIMS-CA credential contributed to your professional growth? Please share specific examples or experiences that highlight the value this certification has brought to your career. And so I'll just give you a minute or a moment here just to read what the respondents had to say. So these responses represent those who have the CPHIMS-CA credential, meaning that they have zoomed in on the Canadian aspect of the credential as well. So the CA credential has opened up new professional networks, enriched knowledge of digital health advancements, and contributed to a stronger grasp of Canada's healthcare integration. So ultimately, it's a foundation that supports ongoing professional growth. So now I'll take you into a closer look at the CA exam. So our exam, the CA exam, builds on core competencies that are essential for digital health professionals in Canada. And we're talking about the convergence of the clinical, the information, and the management sciences to achieve better health outcomes. So these competencies span a wide range of categories, from information management and project management to the specifics of the Canadian healthcare system. The competencies that are addressed in our exam are defined as the knowledge, the skills, the attitudes, and the capabilities that are required for someone to perform effectively as a health informatics professional. So the intent of the CA exam is to test your knowledge and skills as a health informatics professional in the Canadian healthcare space. Digital Health Canada has a set of 50 core competencies that are required by all health informatics professionals, and these are grouped under 7 main categories as displayed on the screen here: information management, technology ecosystem, clinical and health services, Canadian healthcare system, healthcare transformation, project management, analysis, and evaluation. And if you take a closer look as well at some of the health informatics programs across colleges and universities across Canada, this has formed the foundation in the early years of many of those programs. It continues to stand firm and stand strong, and there are actual the committees, the exam writing development committee, the exam development committee, as well as a group called the faculty. They meet from time to time to look at all these competencies and see which ones are still relevant and current based on what is happening in the industry. The last review was in 2022. And so in 2022, 7 competencies were grandfathered and 7 new ones were added. So we keep current and we keep aware of what's happening in the industry to make sure that this is relevant and current. So for the CPHIMS-CA exam, 32 competencies are tested, not all 50. And the reason for this is that 18 of those competencies are already covered by the CPHIMS exam. So when preparing for the exam, while it is important to have a broad knowledge of all 50 competencies, this helps because you can focus on studying for the subset of 32 that will actually be tested on the CA exam. And again, this is not set in stone. If HIMSS shifts the exams and takes on more competencies or stops testing certain competencies, then we regroup and we will accordingly, we will adjust the competencies to reflect the changes. So there's never an overlap. Next slide here. So the exam itself has a mix of questions and cognitive ability levels so that there's a good balance across the 7 competencies that reflects areas where there may be more or less content. So for example, project management, if you look on the chart here, it represents only 2 to 4% of the questions on the exam. And this is because HIMSS covers a significant number of project management questions. So the percentage value that you'll see on our exams represents areas that are not covered, and so they're picked up by the CA exam. Whereas if you take a look at the Canadian healthcare system, that's specific to our country. So you'll definitely see a higher percentage of questions under this area on the exam. So we're thinking about 20 to 24% of the questions on the exam are related to the Canadian healthcare system. The CA exam has a total of 50 questions, and from those 50 questions, only 45 are scored. You'll not be able to identify which ones are not scored. So you'll go through without knowing, but there are 45 that are test questions to see how they perform. Okay, so the CA exam, it doesn't just test what you know. So it's not just a recall question exam. It evaluates how well you can apply and analyze information. So questions are crafted to measure recall, application, and your analytical abilities. So as you can see on this slide here, it shows how many questions you can expect at each level, at each cognitive level. Please excuse me a minute here. Okay, so this ensures that certified professionals are not only knowledgeable, but can apply their expertise to real-world challenges. Okay, so going back to the exam committee, which reviews the exam development committee, which reviews and approves questions to build each test form, and to have a balanced mix of content on the test forms. Like HIMSS, they also use an on-off method to set the pass mark. So the on-off method is a scientifically rigorous process to ensure fairness and accuracy. It's a commitment to quality that validates each candidate's readiness to hold a credential. So here's how the on-off method works. So the committee members, they estimate the probability that a minimally competent candidate would correctly answer each question. The committee analyzes each question individually, and the average of these estimations across all items determine the preliminary pass mark. Once enough candidates have taken the exam, we review the performance data to validate and potentially adjust the pass mark. So this is similar to the process that HIMSS uses, and this really does ensure fairness and accuracy in evaluating the candidate's readiness so that every person that does the exam meets a high standard of competency. Now I'm going to move over into the eligibility requirements. So to be eligible for the CPHIMS-CA Credential, candidates need a relevant academic background as well as professional experience in healthcare information systems. So this ensures that the certified individuals have the foundational skills and knowledge necessary to excel. This chart here represents the different 3 categories under which a person may qualify. And this aligns to the last question on the poll that I conducted earlier, which asks about individuals' experience. So from that poll, at least, based on the numbers that I saw, at least 15 people that participated would be able to qualify under either 1, 2, or 3 of the eligibility requirements. And I'll just allow you to take a moment to take a look at what that looks like. So options 1 and 2 includes having a degree. It could be a BA or a grad degree. Option 3 focuses on experience. And as it focuses on experience, the number of years, of course, are more. It requires 10 years of experience in information and management systems, and 8 of those 10 years has to be in a healthcare setting. And if you're wondering, is healthcare setting just a hospital or a clinic? No. At the bottom in the footnotes, you can see healthcare settings includes provider of health services or products to a healthcare facility. So could be healthcare consulting firm, vendor, federal, provincial, territorial, or local government office, academic institution, payer, and or public health organization. So it's quite wide in how it's phrased. Okay. The other slide here talks about, it's a question I get quite often. How do I know if I'm eligible for the exam? So HIMSS, the go-to for checking eligibility is the at HIMSS at the HIMSS website. So we partner with the exam, with HIMSS for the exam. And I want to point out that the CPHIMS can stand on its own as a credential. So there are over 3,500 people around the world that have the CPHIMS exam. Sorry, the CPHIMS certification. The CA, the Canadian supplemental exam, it is not a credential. It does not stand on its own. So they have to be combined for you to have a credential. And with that being said, if you haven't qualified for doing the CPHIMS, then there would be no sense in pursuing the CA. So the first thing that I always recommend is for someone to do the CPHIMS exam and get that credential, and then follow up by doing the CA exam, because one can stand on its own while you're still pursuing the other. And they are to be completed within 1 year of the other. So if you were to sit the CPHIMS today, you'd have until the latter part of October to do the CA exam to add that to your credential. So what I'm going to do, because this is one of the top questions that I get, how do I know if I'm eligible? HIMSS uses what is called a self-assessment process to check your eligibility. And recently, very recently, they also changed the website. I think I'm just seeing the new changes this week. So it has become more clear and straightforward for someone to walk through the process. So the basic idea is that if you've answered based on checking off your qualifications and answering a series of questions, depending on what you've answered, you are either eligible or not eligible to sit the exam. So if it takes you forward to the point where you are paying for the exam, it's assumed that what you've put in or what you've checked in the process makes you eligible to sit the exam. If it doesn't take you to that section to pay, then you're not eligible. It means that something was checked that does not equip you for writing the CPHIMS exam. So that's what the process is. So it's not, they've also added a new requirement for you to upload your resume, as well as any other documentations that they deem necessary. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to share my screen just to give a quick step by step through that process so that you see what it looks like. So let me just stop sharing here for a while and switch screens. Just bear with me as I bring this up here. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, good. So what it will do is, and it will take you to this site here. I'll put the link in the chat afterwards. And at the bottom here, it will show you start your application. If you're a member of Digital Health Canada, there is a discount code that is available behind when you log in as a member, and that will give you a significant discount on the exam. So you click on start your application, and it will take you here where you're given three options. In this case, you're going for the CPHIMS. I noticed someone in the chat said they have the CA-HIMSS. That's the associate version of the CP-HIMSS. We do not have any partnerships with HIMSS for the CA-HIMSS. However, the CA-HIMSS is still a recognized credential. Many college and university students tend to go for this until they're able to qualify for the CP-HIMSS. So that's an alternative as well. The last one here, the CPDHTS, it's relatively new. But for us, it's the CP-HIMSS. So you'd select CP-HIMSS and then you'd select next. This is the part that's relatively new that they've added here. And so, as I mentioned, you would self-assess. You would decide which category you are applying under. So let's say you're going undergraduate degree, you'd check that. Are you a new candidate? Or are you retaking the exam? And so for some folks, if they've failed, they have to wait 60 days before they can sit again. And so you do the retake the exam if that's the case. And retaking the exam, the fee is less than starting off as a new candidate. Then based on that, at the bottom, it's now asking you to upload documents. And the documents that it's asking for are three things: the copy of your degree, a resume confirming your information systems experience, and a resume or a letter from a supervisor confirming your information management systems in a healthcare setting. And then you would click down here and you'd click on upload the files. And when you've done that, I'm just going to pull this apart here just so that it doesn't show everything for a minute because I have to put some samples in. When you've done that, you will get the next option highlighted and you'll go on. And you can see it's brought the price up. When you click add to order, a new section will open. Add to cart. And now there's an extensive form here for you to fill out. The form will ask about where you're joining from, your job title, address, etc. But down at the bottom here as well, there's a question, a section that talks about demographic information. You need to fill that in. And this part is key. You're acknowledging that everything that you've submitted or said about regarding your eligibility is correct. And so by submitting this, you're basically saying, I am qualified to and eligible to sit this exam. And if you would like to be included in the directory, you check that off at the bottom. I'm not going to go through this, but this is where it takes you to. This will take some time to fill in, but that's basically a look at what the process looks like. And then you'd add it to cart and you check out. For some people, they may not be ready to pay. So you just step aside. You just at least know, at least I know I'm qualified because it took me up to this page here. And based on the question, the answers you'd have given to the questions, of course, then if it allows you to submit to pay, then you're qualified to sit the exam. HIMSS does periodic audits where they would randomly select individuals to audit and check if the documentation submitted is accurate and up to date, and they will deal with accordingly if there are any false submissions regarding that as well. So that is what the eligibility process looks like. So for those who are members, again, when you go to the final page, there will be a place that will ask you to enter a code, and that code is behind our membership wall for our members, and it gives a significant discount on the membership. Okay, so I'm just going to stop sharing this and go back to the slide. Am I back up, Amanda?
Yes, but it's showing the French again, so.
Okay, let me turn it off. It's off.
Perfect.
Thank you. Okay. Another topic to mention here is accommodations. I just want to point out that both exams offers accommodations. HIMSS offers a bit more because they also do in-person exams. But for us, the accommodation that we currently offer is that if French is your first language, we will add, because the exam is currently only in English, we will add an extra 30 minutes to your time to do the exam if your first language is not English, not just French, if your first language is not English. However, there's a process. You have to reach out to me directly with proof as well for us to grant that extension. Okay. The other thing that I'm going to talk about now is the resources, and I'm just aware of time. So both exams have a lot of resources that helps in preparing. Because it's two exams, of course, there's going to be two different sets of resources. And these are created to help you to succeed. They're very comprehensive. For ourselves, we have our resource guide. We have our course or our lecture series or our fall learning series is a key piece for that. We have a practice exam within our LMS. And the webinars that are held weekly are also great learning resources, as well as there are many pan-Canadian healthcare organization websites like CIHI or Canada Health Infoway, because it's also an exam that tests your experience and your knowledge. So we're pulling questions from all over. The questions are not pulled from our resource guide. They're pulled from many different resources that are specific to Canada. The other exam, CPHIMS, they also have quite a robust set of resources to help in preparing. There is a review guide as well as a practice exam, and they also have a course in an LMS as well. And of course, HIMSS has a lot of conferences and sessions that are recorded and also available on their websites to help in preparing for their exam. Like most credentials, it has to be maintained. So the CPHIMS-CA Credential, it's renewed every 3 years. So the renewal cycle is 3 years, and there are many different ways you can gain credits or continuing education hours, as we call them. And these can be tracked they're tracked on your own time. Or webinars, for example, they do count as credits. All our events count as credits. But recently, we have also partnered with other associations so that for individuals who are members of various associations in Canada, instead of you can attend one event and earn credit across 3 different associations or credentials. So our current partnership includes we've partnered with CHIMA and CCHL, the Canadian College of Health Leaders. So we have partnered with them on some events. Not all programs are, but for the most part, almost all events, where those also count towards continuing education credits. So this is just a quick breakdown of what the maintenance looks like. So for the CPHIMS, you're required to have a 45 during your certification cycle. And for the CPHIMS-CA, it's 60 because 15, 45 for the CPHIMS portion, and then 15 that are specific to the Canadian healthcare information management systems. And there are many different ways individuals gain these hours. There is actually a guide, certification, renewal, and maintenance guide from HIMSS that also breaks down the different categories that you can qualify under. Or fall learning series, for example, that's eligible for credits. The Wednesday webinars, if you've done a course at an academic institution, depending on the content, it can also qualify. Different conferences and events, volunteering on different committees also qualifies. So there's a guide that breaks that down as well. And so this is just an overview of some of the different categories that falls under. Okay, so we have at least 6 different categories where the credential can be maintained by gaining hours in these different committees and categories. If you're not able to meet those 60 hours, then you would have to rewrite the certification exam and pay the fees. But over 3 years so far, I found that people have been able to maintain them, especially based on the content that we're constantly putting out to make maintaining the credential even easier for members and non-members. Okay, so that takes me to the last part of the presentation, which is the Q&A. So I'm just gonna stop sharing here, and I'm now open to any questions you may have. And if you do have additional questions, feel free to reach out, education@digitalhealthcanada.com. So I'm just gonna stop sharing. Amanda, would you mind helping me out to see if there are any questions in the chat?
Yeah, so there's one which you were just talking about. They were wondering how many continuous hours are required every 3 years.
Okay, so the answer, if it's a CPHIMS-CA, it's 60 hours. If it's just a CPHIMS, it's 45.
Okay. And then earlier they were asking if it's a requirement to complete the CPHIMS exam ahead of the CA specific. I know you gave a recommendation, but I don't think it's required, right?
Oh, it's not a requirement. It's not a requirement at all.
Okay. Great. Those are the 2 questions I'm seeing. Does anyone else have any other questions? I'm also going to share just via a poll. You can, if you have more questions or want to learn more, you can share your name and email. This is not an compulsory. This is just if you do have a curiosity. So I'm just sharing that poll right now if you want to.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you do have any questions for the group, definitely post them in the chat. We can answer them now. Otherwise, Nickiesha can always speak to you another time. I'll just give another 30 seconds for this poll before I close it. Again, it's not obligatory, but if you did want to hear more, definitely put your name and email in there. Right.
And I know sometimes we have a lot of individuals. Just to point out on another question that I get quite often, I'm internationally trained. Would I be qualified for this credential? And I just want to point out that yes, you are. If you have been trained internationally at an accredited university, you do qualify. That's one of the good things about this. However, it's because the CA portion is so specific, you would still need, depending on how long you've been in the Canadian healthcare system, you may still need a lot of build up in terms of experience on preparing for that piece as well. So yeah, definitely it does recognize internationally trained credentials as well.
That's good to know. Thank you. Okay, we've got a couple more questions. One is, how frequent are the exam sittings for CPHIMS?
Because they're the online portion now exists, you select your date. So in terms of the in-person, it would be based on the availability, based on the person view locations and their schedule. But the online, you select your dates depending on on what's available on the calendar. Similarly for us, you select your date and the proctor becomes available to help you through getting that exam set up. So they're more convenient now than before. You're
And then
welcome.
another question, do we need to register for membership to take both exams?
So membership is not a requirement for the exams. However, I can say this, that the price of membership, I don't know what it is now, Amanda, it's about 100 and something. Considering the savings that you're going to get on both exams, you'd have paid for membership several times. So I always say, if you're going to do the exams, buy membership, because I think it's about a 300 or so savings US across that. And then what a membership will do as well is that the resources that are available, especially on the CA portion, you lock them in sometimes at 50% less than if you were to buy them as a non-member. So the price of membership has its perks for the credential.
Great, thank you.
How to write this. So that's okay, Sharon. So it's 2 exams. So the CPHIMS is registered through HIMSS. And then once you have gotten your eligibility and you've checked that you're eligible, you can buy ORS through our store. So ORS is sold through our stores, which is the CA version, and the CPHIMS version is sold through the HIMSS portal.
Okay, great.
Okay.
See any other questions? I'm just going to launch our normal satisfaction poll, and I'll give another chance if people do still have questions that they have on their mind. You can definitely ask them, and we'll still be answering them since we do have a couple minutes left. We do have another question. Do you know if there are training guides for CPHIMS to prepare for the exam?
Yes, and so what I'm going to do, I'll just pause a moment and I'm going to just share some important links. So there are 2 handbooks. So each exam has a handbook. There's a CA exam handbook and the CPHIMS handbook. So I'm just going to share those in the chat. I do have them here. Let me just pull them up and put the links in the chat as well. So this one is the CPHIMS. Sorry, I'm chatting with the. So there we go. And then so those are the 2 handbooks that are available. And the handbooks have all the links to the resources, the process of doing the exam, etc. Filled out there. And one of the other push, I did see that someone on here said they do have the CPHIMS, I believe. Feel free to join our committees. I'm going to be putting out a call soon for new members of the item writing committee, because their 2-year term is coming to a close and some of them may be transferred up to the development committee. Feel free to join it. It is a rich experience because you meet individuals across Canada. You get to explore questions, topics, discuss and pull apart what's happening in the industry in a nice round table. And it's also a great way to help create change in such an important credential. So if you do have the credential and then you're online, feel free to reach out to me if you're interested in joining. They do meet. It does require a commitment of at least 1 hour per month to attend one of 2 meetings where your items are discussed and reviewed. And if this is something that you would love to be a part of, go pursue your CPHIMS-CA and come on board. There's always an opportunity here for volunteering as well.
Thanks, Nickiesha. And then there was just one quick one. They're just asking that there's no actual like course specific to this. It's self-study.
Sorry.
Like there's no like, training course, how to pass the exam, something like that. It's a self-study thing.
That's correct. What we do provide is a list of all the competencies that are being tested. So on the exam handbook or the exam preparation guide, we do have a few other documents. You will find a breakdown of the competencies that are being tested. On the HIMSS handbook, it's there as well. So if you wanted to do a learning gap, see where your gaps are, you can go through those competencies and see where your gaps are, where you may need to focus a bit more on. Some people, their strength may be in Canadian healthcare system, but they know they have gaps in information management. So in that case, you'd focus a bit more time on that. And in addition, the resources that we have in our store, we have broken down the modules with that in mind. So while we sell our course as a whole, we also break it down based on module because we know some folks may be strong in some areas and may just need a help with a small portion of the exam. So that makes it easier as well for an individual to pursue that. But we don't have any specific thing that will make that's all our resources are built with the exam in mind as well. They will help you, but there's no actual course that you have to take. It's all based on your knowledge and your experience. Some individuals have never taken the course or the practice exam, but they have done pretty well on the exam. Yeah.
Great. Thanks. That's it for the questions, Nickiesha. Was there anything else that you wanted to say that you might have forgotten before we wrap?
Yes. So for those who are joining, who are members of the learning series, we have come to an end, and I do thank you for your time and your participation throughout the last 8 weeks. Your certificates, they have now been converted into PDF format. So you will be getting them by the latest next week, Monday. It's quite a bit to send because I have to track the attendance for everything, but they have been created thanks to our marketing manager, Eileen. So I'll be sending those out to you. In the next few weeks, I will send a survey that will just be a survey that talks about the entire series for you to give your feedback as we plan to do this again and to see how we can improve. So thank you, everyone. And thanks, Amanda, for staying with me throughout the last 8 weeks. And I look forward again to doing this in fall. So if you missed the last series, there's one coming up in winter. You can't afford to miss that one. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was great. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.